The manual outlines the relevant provisions of the law on asset disposal and provides a clear step-by-step process for disposing of school assets. This is as indicated in Unit 6 of the manual. Honorable Speaker, the Basic Education Act 2013 mandates the Board of Management with the responsibility of administering the resources of our school, and in this regard, the Ministry's manual on disposal of all these items is normally approved by the school management boards. The methods of disposal are as outlined in Section 165 of the Public Procurement and Proceedings and the transfer to another public entity. To ensure compliance with the law and the Ministry's guidance, every school is audited at least annually by the Ministry's School Audit Directorate, as well as the Office of the Auditor General. The Ministry's field officers also undertake regular inspections of schools in order to ensure compliance. Honorable Speaker, cases where there might be non-compliance, of course, once they come to our notice, we make sure that the necessary remedial action is taken. In respect to the recruitment of public entities, the boards of management are subject to the values and the principles of public service as outlined in Article 232 of the Constitution and the Public Service on the Values and the Principles Act. These values and principles include ethnic and gender inclusion, merit and open and competitive recruitment. The recruitment undertaken by the boards are subjected to audit by the Ministry of Schools Audit Directorate as well as the Office of the Auditor General. Cases of non-compliance, if identified, then the necessary appropriate action is taken, Mr. Speaker, and I welcome any reports of such violations so that my office can be able to undertake the necessary action. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Aduma, are you satisfied?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just to look at the question, I realized that the question was limited to rather most of the movable assets and did not address the issue of the questions of immovable assets like title deeds, which I realize it is not clear whether the title deeds of most schools are in the hands of the ministry or they are in the hands of the communities or the sponsors of the various schools. Mr. Speaker, I also realize that when we talk about the issue of mismanagement, there are also grants which are meant for special schools. Most of these grants have not been dispersed and schools are suffering. So that is also key. I also observed that there's also the issue of mismanagement in skilled staffing. There's the perception that many of the good principals are poached to some of the schools which are undeserving. And I realized that I had 3 cases in point where the well-performing head teacher of Yala High School was poached and had difficulties landing where he was posted. I also realized that the standards in Miranda High School have been on a downward trend after the head teacher, then Mr. Boas, was removed. We've also have the question of Sagongo High School, where the head teacher was blocked when he was posted elsewhere. So I know the Cabinet Secretary is equal to task. He has the power and the authority, and I trust he'll be able to address that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Ruma, that is a complimentary statement other than question. Minister, you can note that and deal with it. Jared Okello, I see you on the screen.
I thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and on equal footing, I want to thank the Cabinet Secretary for Education for coming in to address some of our concerns. Honorable Speaker, I was home during to walk around my constituency, and the junior secondary school, to a larger extent, paint a very grim picture. Honorable Speaker, we are alive to the fact that the school classrooms were actually built in high schools. But now the regime came into office and chose to retain our children within the existing primary schools, Honorable Speaker. Whereas we do not have the capacity to physically remove those classrooms from high schools and plug them into primary schools, I would want to know whether there is any plan to have additional classrooms to junior secondary schools within the primary schools where they exist, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, again, we do have lots of these junior secondary schools strewn all over, but you realize that only one teacher is plugged to a junior secondary school. They undertake 14 subjects, which are compulsory, and probably around 8 elective subjects, Honorable Speaker. Even when you're a genius, it is common knowledge that you cannot handle 22 subjects, Honorable Speaker. So what plans do the ministry have to add additional junior secondary school teachers to augment the shortfall that does exist, Honorable Speaker? And finally, Honorable Speaker, just in brief, Honorable Speaker, the junior secondary schools charge 11,000 shillings going towards lunches for to our children. Honorable Speaker, I do not know whether the ministry came up with this figure, 11,000 shillings for lunches. But again, these are the same children who were last year walking back to their homes and coming back to school in the afternoon. So what has so changed that our parents have to dig deep into their pockets to get 11,000 shillings to assist the lunch program? And I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Minister, that question by Jared Okello actually falls under the next questions by Mushira and Onchoke, so you can put it on hold. You'll answer it when we get there. Next, question 124. Member for Machakos County, Mama Joyce Kamene.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question to the Cabinet Secretary. The first one. Could the Cabinet Secretary state the amount of money that the ministry has received towards the provision of sanitary pads to the school girls each financial year from 2017 to 2018 up to 2022 to 2023? Part 2. Explain the criteria, if any, used by the ministry in distributing the allocations stated above among the counties and specify how much Machakos County received in each of the financial years.
Minister.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. In the financial year 2017-2018 and the 2018-2019, did not receive any money towards the provision of sanitary pads to our girls in our schools. The program was actually then public service, gender, and the youth at that particular time. I was not able to get the figures from that ministry, but given time, because we have a one government approach, I can't be able to get the figures. But in the year 2019-2022 financial year, the Ministry of Education received a total, up to 2022, the Ministry of Education has received a total of 1,585,816,000 for this program. The breakdown for financial year is as follows, Honorable Chairperson and members. 2019-2020, we received 375 million. 2020-2021, we received a total of 470,480,000. And 2021-2022, Honorable Chairperson, we received 270,480,000. 2022-2023, we received a total of 470 million. So the total received is as given 1,585,816,000. 1,816,000. And the criteria we use in disputing the sanitary pads to the various counties in the country is following the enrollment of girls in grade 6, 7, and 8, because it is that particular age which we consider the girls need the sanitary towels. I have given a breakdown, Honorable Chairperson, of the quantities given out in terms of packets to each and every sub-county in Machakos, and also given each and every year the way those particular quantities were given to each and every sub-county in Machakos. And I think the honorable members can be able to look at the breakdown because we have given as per each and every sub-county in Machakos. And not only Machakos, this information is also available, what we have been able to give out as a ministry for each and every county in this country. Honorable Speaker, sir, so we have also limited this to public schools only because we don't give sanitary pads to private schools, we only give to public schools. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Joyce Kamene.
Mr. Speaker, as much as I'd like to thank the CS for his answers, but there still leaves a lot to be desired. Because as women reps, we get a lot of calls from these schools. And he has just stated that they supply to the primary schools. But we do have public secondary schools where we know we have so many vulnerable girls that are attending schools. What is the ministry doing about those girls? The criteria they use leave a lot to be desired. They ought to improve because we get a lot of questions. Where are sanitary towels? And we are talking about 470 million. Where is this money going to surely? I wish you'd see the systems so that we can understand why do some schools not get sanitary towels. Thank you.
Babo Wino.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Take this opportunity to congratulate the Cabinet Secretary for Education, who is a very good friend of mine and was a former colleague, and also a family friend, because the son was my lecturer at the University of Nairobi School of Law. Now, Mr. Speaker, my question is about what's currently happening in public primary schools, which is very, very sad, Mr. Speaker. You find that the children, the learners, are being sent away from school because of certain materials which are required from these learners. For example, they are told that they can't go to school without paying money for desks and other costs. As we speak, there's a primary school called Edelwell Primary School in Embakasi's constituency that has sent away 65 learners who can't go to school because the administration is demanding 1,500. And I know that this is affecting the whole country. So if public primary schools are meant to be free, why are we charging these learners of these monies? Number two, the CBC, the competency-based curriculum, which has now become the incompetency-based curriculum. The Cabinet Secretary, can we do away with this system? Because we are wasting our children. They are acting as a control experiment, which is going to backfire. You find, Mr. Speaker, that in a primary school, the junior secondary school, one teacher who is trained at the university is supposed to handle a maximum of 2 subjects. But at the junior secondary school, one teacher is handling a maximum of between 8 to 10 subjects. Mr. Speaker, how viable is it for a teacher to prepare for a subject that he will teach the following day. If a teacher is supposed to teach 8 subjects, then a teacher needs 8 hours to prepare for the subject. It means that whatever is being impacted, the knowledge that is being impacted on our learners is equivalent or congruent to liquid intelligence. So, Mr. Speaker, let us not waste our children, and to the Cabinet Secretary, please let us do away with CBC.
What
It is wasting
your
us.
question?
Oh,
You are making a statement.
oh,
What's your
could we do away with the CBC? Thank you.
Minister, answer those two.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker and Honorable Members. Members, as you are aware, the funds given to us in the form of purchase of sanitary pads have given the breakdown each and every year. The money is not enough as much as we would like to cover our secondary schools. Of course, there is need. And this particular function, there is an engagement for us to transfer the funds either to the Ministry of Gender or to the Women Rep. They are aware about the conversation, but I think the question is the amount of funds available for this function is not enough. And it is because of that that we are able to limit ourselves to primary school girls and also secondary school. Of course, there is need. I know there are certain other agencies which have been giving sanitary pads, but we require to allocate more funds, and I will request the Parliament to allocate more funds so that we are able to cater for this need. I'm very categorical, members of Parliament, when it comes to matters to do with illegal levies. We have been able to give a directive as a ministry and as a government that tuition is covered by government, and it is something which is enshrined in the Constitution of this country, Article 53, and primary schools we give a total of 1,420, and no school, no principal, member of Parliament, kindly give me the information. I've already taken action in quite a number of other schools. Recently, we had cases in Kirifi. We had cases, I think, in the other county where we have taken disciplinary action against those who were concerned, such that once this information is made available to us, that there is a school charging 1,500, then we will be able to move in immediately and take action. And even our deputy county directors of education, we are facilitating them so that they can be able to monitor, they can be able to go to each and every school, and in case there is such an irregularity, they take the necessary required action. Members, you know, we have been able to work this journey of CPC. We are now on grade 7. We are on junior secondary. It started way back in 2018, and I think as Kenyans, we have been able to discuss on the merits of CPC, such that we have to align ourselves with what is happening not only in the region, we have to align ourselves with the 21st century, and also what is happening internationally and globally. And even when the team that was set up by His Excellency the President, the Presidential Working Party, it went around the country, gathering views from many people in the 47 counties. It came here to Parliament, and the key stakeholders were also engaged in this discussion. And you know, the percentage of Kenyans who said, yes, we have few challenges which we can be able to mitigate as a country, but we cannot be able to go back. Let us move on with the CPC. Actually, 68% of the Kenyans, according to that report, said we continue with CPC. There was 15% who said we think we should be able to go back to the 844 system. And there were others who were, of course, in between, but the greater percentage of Kenyans, including experts, said, yes, this is the best system. We have few challenges which we will be able to mitigate on, and I would like to assure the members that actually, apart from the teachers we posted, there are also so many qualified teachers, because we have over 75,000 teachers who are graduates in primary schools, and we have upgraded those teachers to also teach in the junior secondary schools. So the situation is not as bad as we think. There's a lot of improvement and a lot of good things, and moving forward, we are also mitigating on some of these challenges. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Women Rep Kilifi.
Mheshimiwa Spika, nataka kuzungumzia kuhusu sodo. Sodo ni sanitary towels.
Unazungumzia au unauliza swali?
Nataka kumuuliza swali waziri. Mpango huu wa sodo ni mambo ya kike. Na huu mpango ulikuwa kwa wakilishi wa kike wa hii nchi. Majimbo 47. Hii pesa Mheshimiwa Joyce Kamene ametaja hapa milioni 470. Mheshimiwa Spika, ni pesa nyingi sana kutumia kwa mradi. Hii pesa ikipewa milioni 10 kila mwakilishi wa kike ndani ya Kenya hii, ni pesa nyingi za kugawa sodo kwa kila shule katika Kenya nzima. Hii wizara haiwezani na hii kazi. Mimi ndani ya Kilifi ndo nagawanya sodo katika shule. Shule hizi ni za primary, shule za msingi Mheshimiwa Spika, shule za secondary, college zile ndogo tunaita tertiary. Kuna wasichana wa maisha ya chini hawawezi kumudu pakti moja ya sodo. Waziri, tunakuomba ukutane na wakilishi wa kike wote ndani ya bunge hili, tukupe mfumo vipi utatumia hizi pesa milioni 470 milioni 10 kwa kila jimbo. Sisi tutaweza kuendeleza huu mradi vizuri. Wewe ufatane na haya mambo ya elimu huko kwengine, haya mambo ya sodo ya kike tuwachie sisi. Ya pili kuhusu Mheshimiwa Spika, hii moja ni kuhusu CBC. Mheshimiwa Spika, nikwambie wazi, hakuna mzazi anataka huu mfumo. Tusidanganyane na hii percentage tunasikiza hapa. Huu mfumo umegharimu wazazi mfuko mkubwa sana. Mheshimiwa Spika, mzazi anunue viazi, watoto wakafundishwa kupika chips shule. Mzazi anunue nyama, mtoto aende akafundishwe nyama ya mbuzi ni ipi, nyama ya ng'ombe ni ipi. Wabebe kuku, wakaone kuku hai achinjwe. Nyama hizi hazirudi nyumbani, Mheshimiwa Spika. Samaki wakafundishwa samaki, majina wapigwa kule shule na watoto hawali. Mfumo huu umegharamisha wazazi pali pakubwa. Na ukilinganisha sasa, kwa sababu kuna ile ada ndani ya bajeti ya 3% kukatwa, mfumo huu hautaweza kudumishwa ndani ya Kenya hii. Mzazi akatwa 3%, iende kwa kujenga nyumba, kisha anunue kuku, viazi na nyama apeleke kwa mwalimu. Mfumo huu hatutaki. Waziri, tafuta mbinu nyingine. Asante.
Yes, Member Kimani. Minutes after this answer that, we go to the next question.
I think for the last 6 years, I've been a member of this House. The issue of provision of sanitary towels for our girls has always come up in every year. Why do we have to debate it every year? Why can we not have a comprehensive way of ensuring that our girls have sanitary towels in their schools?
Ask the Minister.
Honorable Speaker, I want the men in this House to think. If you bleeded for 3 days minimum every month, I think we'll all drop dead. We will all drop dead. And these girls go through this without menstrual education. They have to use unhygienic things like mattresses and blankets and all those bad things. And we still have to debate this every year? Mr. Speaker, I think we need to put the Cabinet Secretary to account. Let us have a comprehensive plan to make sure that every girl in this country, when they attain the age of puberty, they are supplied with sanitary towels. Mr. Speaker, we used to have condoms in toilets. So if you can provide condoms in toilets, why not provide sanitary towels for our girls? Why do they have to keep begging? Waziri, provide a solution. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I agree with the concerns of the honorable members that indeed we require now funding and a better structure of this so that they get to our girls. There is a discussion, and for the 7 members of county women members of how to transfer this function. And I think the 2 committees, Honorable Chair, were to make a decision, the committee on the budget and the committee on education, whether this money should be given to the Honorable county women members of parliament, or whether it should be given to the Ministry of Public Service and the Gender. And that is the responsibility of the 2 committees of this House, because we said the Committee on Education and the Committee on the Budget will be able to make that decision, and whatever decision they make is what we will be able to move ahead with, and we hope that it will be the best one as long as our girls are provided with sanitary towels. CPC, I was in Kirivi, the Member of Parliament is aware. Actually, I have been to Kirivi County 3 times, and I invite her to come when we are in Kirivi. The last I was in St. Thomas Girls, the honorable member, you are aware, and I even had a meeting with the local leaders when I was in Kirivi. Even when I came to Buani University, kindly come over as we engage our people and we talk to the parents and the teachers concerning CPC. You can also be able to get the kind of information they have concerning CPC, where the teachers say, yes, we want to continue with this, but we require a little bit of capacity building, which we are able to do as a government. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. We'll go to question 125, but as we do so, I've been requested by the Honorable Babu Wino to recognize Lynn Alvaram Lawi and Atifa Safi, Directors of Resources Distribution, a Canadian international organization that advocates for gender and menstrual hygiene, in the gallery. Honorable Michael Muchira, hold your rock.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask question number 125 of 2023. Could the Cabinet Secretary provide details of the number and percentage of pupils who transited to junior secondary schools and Form 1s respectively, and the number that is yet to report the number that is yet to report with respect to the 2023 academic year? And number 2, could the Cabinet Secretary explain measures that the Ministry has instituted to locate children who are yet to enroll for either junior secondary schools or Form 1 in order to meet 100% transition, considering that the basic education is an inviolable right to every child? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, and honorable members. As at 26 May 2023, a total of 1,146,070 runners had reported to term 2 of 2023 to junior secondary schools all over the country, against an enrollment of 1,212,279 in grade 6. This translates to 93% transition rate. Those who had not transited at that date were 5.47%, which translates to 209 runners. A total number of 1,155,369 out of 1,212,279 206,974 runners are reported to Form 1 as at 26 May 2023, which translates to a transition rate of 96%. A total of 12,051 of the remaining runners reported to TVET institutions, while 4,709 repeated standard 8 crash. This leaves a total of 34,845 runners, representing 3%, who are yet to report to any institution of running. The second part of the question, Honorable Speaker and honorable members, is that the high transition rate has been a result of various strategic measures that the ministry continues to implement, and of course we would like this to be 100%. Even the 3% which is out, we would like it to go up to 100%. Among the measures we have taken in order to ensure that we have a high transition rate is that we have been spearheading a multi-agency approach team in following the Ministry of Interior and National Administration, and also including the honorable members here to ensure that all our runners transit to their respective levels of basic education. We have done this, Honorable Speaker, using the grassroots approach to identify and locate the runners who don't report to school in time and ensure that they resume their studies. And as I've said, the chiefs, assistant chiefs, have been very, very helpful in this. We have done a mopping up exercise to ensure that we encourage 100% transition, and we have also issued guidelines which are designed to facilitate the 100% transition, which include the following: operationalization of our day wings in established boarding primary schools in urban setups and the densely populated areas. We have also been able to allow junior secondary schools within a proximity of 6 to 10 kilometers apart to operationalize shared school transport to ease access to runners and support a day schooling. We have encouraged the establishment of low-cost boarding schools in areas with highly scattered settlements or pastoralist communities where runners have the risk of disability and others subject to availability of funds. We have also been implementing affirmative action in geographically expansive areas, low density and insecurity-prone areas to allow primary schools that lack the requisite enrollment and the infrastructural capacity to domicile junior secondary schools. And as well, directing our runners to be excluded from school uniform, because we said it's not mandatory that we have the new uniform when they transition to another level. The capitation rate members are aware. In the junior secondary school, we set it at 15,042, and also in senior secondary school, we set it at 22,240, and also running materials, particularly textbooks, we have achieved a ratio, apart from few areas, of 1-to-1 ratio in provision of textbooks, and also providing school feeding program in order to ensure that those, particularly in arid and semi-arid areas, are able to access school. So, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Speaker, sir, those are some of the measures we have taken, and those are the numbers that we have so far who have transitioned the 2 levels in our basic education. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Alice Ngang.
Honorable Speaker, from Moro had said about the sanitary pads, when he talked about condoms. I wanted just to clarify that condoms are voluntal, but when it comes to menstrual, we were born with it and
Ali,
we live.
you are out of
I was
order.
just.
You are out of order. You can approach Honorable Kimana and lecture him on that. John Mutunga.
Honourable Speaker, I rise to congratulate the CS Education for the good work he's doing. But all of that, the ministry is facing a very difficult time to implement this new education system. Honourable Speaker, I happen to be involved in making sure that it happens because I'm an investor in education. But I can assure you that I do not know in this country who is clear. And I would like the Honourable CS to tell us the extent to which the ministry is clear on the expected products from this system, where they are going to go, the kind of professionals we are going to produce, and what we shall do with the others. Honourable Speaker, maybe that you can tell us that, because we all seem to be guiding our children into something we are not clear as a country. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Thank you, Nicholas Turkana East.
Thank you, Speaker, for giving me this chance to thank the CS and also to ask this question on each of the AFTAM. Honorable Speaker, AFTAM has become mandatory in our education calendar. My question is, what added advantage is the AFTAM getting to adding to our learners in this country? Because, Mr. Speaker, you find a kid who comes from Turkana and he or she is schooling in Mombasa County, is given 3 days to go for AFTAM. All the way from Mombasa to Turkana East, and it's 3 days. And from Turkana to Mombasa, you can travel for 3 days. That is one way. Coming back 3 days. That's total of 6 days. How fast will this child travel from Mombasa to Turkana for this AFTAM? This AFTAM has become very expensive today. Parents go, kids go to school, they come back. Some of them just, the AFTAM get them on the way, and they go back without even reaching home. It is even becoming dangerous to our learners, because some of our learners meet even strangers on the way back home in the name of the AFTAM. So can the CS clarify what the AFTAM is adding to the education of our learners in this country, both in primary school and secondary schools? Thank you, Speaker.
Minister.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Hold, Minister, sorry. Emmanuel Wangwe, you'll be the last on this.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, allow me to appreciate the Cabinet and so far wish him well. Honorable Speaker, the Cabinet Secretary has put it very clear that there is very good progress in terms of 100% transition. But my concern, Honorable Speaker, is how to retain the 100% transition into the secondary schools. And especially, Honorable Speaker, I wish the Cabinet Secretary to clarify on what his ministry is doing so far, especially to the 2021 Form 1 students under the program Elimu Scholarship Program, where, Honorable Speaker, the Jomo Kenyatta Foundation is yet to remit the funds as we speak today. All the students who went into the Form 1 secondary school 2023 under that program, through his ministry, Honorable Speaker, are yet to receive payment. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Cabinet Secretary, you can answer those.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. I want to assure my friend, the Honorable Mutunga, that CPC, after the lower level, that is the junior secondary, they transition to senior secondary. where there are 3 pathways. The 3 pathways, one is STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. The second other pathway is social sciences, also commonly known as humanities. The third pathway, Honorable Speaker, is on sports, visual, and performing art. Those who are good in that area will also be able to find an opportunity to pursue their talents in that particular area. And as we said, this is a system with a proper value system which will be able to inculcate certain values to our young people, and also get the kind of competencies and skills which are fit favorably with the rest of the world, and that is, it is the best way to go. So it is level such that when the year comes for them to transition to universities, our universities will be well prepared. Half term, from the time you and me were in school, there used to be half term, because a term goes about 90 to 100 days. Emotionally, if you subject these people continuously without giving them a break, particularly in secondary schools, senior secondary schools, it also gets us into certain other problems, like strikes in schools, some even getting into certain other activities. So emotionally, it stabilizes them when they get probably 3-4 days half term, a break, and it is normally optional, such that there are those who come from far, who can be able to prefer to remain in school. So it doesn't have to mean that each and every one of them has to go. We have been getting the support, RIM scholarships, affecting about 12,000 of our Kenyans, those who come from poor backgrounds. We delayed in getting the funds from the various agencies, various donors, but I think from 2 weeks ago, we have now been able to get the funds, and those who were beneficiaries, we have been able to disperse the funds to the various schools where they joined for their secondary school education, and we will be able to continue with the program because those who are supporting this program are actually supportive of it. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Minister, I think the issue of the member for Turkana is whether it is prudent for a child schooling in a national school in Mombasa to be late to go home for half term for 3 days, when it takes 3 days to travel, 3 days to come back. I think the policy issue should be whether you can let such children remain in schools during that half term, as those who can go home can go. Nicholas, isn't that your issue? Yes, Minister.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Actually, as a parent, and I'm sure and as a leader, you understand that children from very poor families who are brilliant and go to national schools travel across the country. And to tell them to go to half-term for 3 days is actually not very reasonable.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. That's why I said it is actually optional, such that not each and every one of those students goes for half-term. They can opt to remain. Some, like the case he has said, if it is a child for Turkana who is in Mombasa, unless the parents probably are of a category where they are able, and during that particular time they can be able to go to Mombasa such that they take the child from school. If it is the child traveling all the way, it will not be able to make sense, and it's an issue which I agree with, that we should be able to take up so that those ones who don't have that kind of arrangement can be able to remain in school during that particular time, because we have also that option.
Thank you. Member for Bonchari, Charles Onchoke.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to take the opportunity to appreciate the Cabinet Secretary and his team for appearing and take our questions. Could the Cabinet Secretary provide a status report on the construction of classrooms under the competency-based curriculum phase 2 for the following 10 secondary schools in the Bonchari constituency that were identified in 2022 to host junior secondary schools? 1, Bishop Charles Mugendi, Nyamukenye, Botoro Evangelical Lutheran Church of Kenya, Ekerubo, Etiero Girls, St. Andrews Mugumo, St. Anne's Nyangoge, St. Charles Rwanga Gesero, St. Francis Nyasagati, St. Peter Suneka, and St. Vincent Omwari. 2, state when the construction of classrooms in Botoro, Ekerubo, and Mugumo secondary schools that were to be ready for use in January 2023 will commence, and state when the ministry will pay the contractors awarded tenders to construct classrooms in the 7 secondary schools above where works are being completed. And 3, outline the plans that the ministry has put in place to construct adequate classrooms for junior secondary schools in the Bonchari constituency in order to ease congestion that is adversely affecting learning, and specify clear timelines for the same. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Cabinet Secretary.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. This is something, again, affecting each and every member of Parliament.
Yes, 1 minute. Yes, Donya, what's the problem?
I'm the joyrider.
You are?
I had said that.
Pardon?
Joyrider.
Yeah, but the joyrider comes after the question has been answered.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker and honorable members. This is one other thing that affects each and every member of Parliament in this House, because members, as you remember, we had phase 1 of this program that covered each and every one of your constituencies, and a total of 7,600,000,062 million was utilized in phase 1, which was done between, I think, 2020, 2021, and a total number of 9,721 classrooms in secondary schools were built. And those ones are complete, and the payments have been done. We don't have anything pending. In the phase 2, which the honorable member for Bonchari has been able to raise a question, apart from his area, where a total of 12 million is supposed to be used for the classrooms that were given in Bonchari. Countrywide, the total number of classrooms which are supposed to be done are 6,495, out of which the contractors who have been contracted to do those classrooms are 6,371 contractors. That is phase 2. The total cost of phase 2 is 2,542,000,000, and a number of those classrooms are complete. A few are not complete, and we are hoping that before the end of the financial year, they should be complete. For Bonchari, the status is as given in the table. Botoro secondary is 80% complete. Kerubo is about 90% complete. St. Andrews Mugumo is at one classroom is complete, and the other one is 75% complete. St. Anne's Nyangoge, 2 classrooms are complete. St. Charles Rwanga Gesero is complete, the 1 classroom. St. Francis Nyasagati is complete. St. Peter Suneka is complete. And St. Vincent Omwari is also complete. The second part of the question, Honorable Speaker, is that we are expecting that the schools will be completed before 30th June, and the 7 schools which have been completed, the ministry is supposed to pay a total of 12,611,521. Of course, you are aware the total cost of a classroom was being constructed at a cost of 708,221. And we are here to pay the contractors, not only for Bonchari, but even in other constituencies. We are expecting that the National Treasury will be able to give us the 2.5 billion so that we are able to make payment before the end of the financial year, so that it is not carried over as a pending bill. The third part of the question, Honorable Speaker, is that they had 56 junior secondary schools in the Bonchari constituency with a total of 3,899 runners. Generally, each of the schools has 1 classroom for grade 7 runners, and the number of classrooms where we experience a shortage is 22 classrooms. And I request again, Honorable Speaker, that we will be able to partner with the members of Parliament. In this, we are making an engagement with the World Bank. Hopefully, we should be able to get the funds where we'll be able to do integrated resource centers and also do sanitation facilities in some of the schools. But again, as you access your CDF funds, because your shortage in your constituency is only 22 classrooms, and I hope that we should be able to partner. You do part of it, and probably once we access funds, we can also be able to do a few. Thank you, Honorable Speakers.
Tonya, now you can joyride.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. You find out that in junior secondary school, they have a new syllabus. They have new teachers, as much as they are not enough. They too have a new uniform. My question to Waziri is the ministry having any plans of having a new administration block for junior secondary school learners? To conclude with the issue of sanitary pads, Mr. Speaker, I would wish the CS to clarify. He told us that as members, we consider that budget. When we consider that budget, are the sanitary pads still going to be issued through the Ministry of Education, or they will be brought back to us as women members of Parliament? Thank you.
Gideon Ochanda.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, is giving us these details in terms of what was done in the name of classrooms. All of them were done in secondary schools. Where we are now, the grade 7 are still in primary schools. So it means that there are infrastructure that is basically not in use. So can the CS tell us in terms of projection, are we seeing grade 7 and 8 getting back to primary school, or are we seeing grade 7 and 8 joining the secondary schools where the infrastructure is as at now? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Sitting next to Nicholas, I can't see you clearly, Honorable Member. You are honorable. Can you give him the microphone? Honorable.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. My name is Honorable Protas Akuja, MP for Loima constituency, Tupara County.
I know you. Sorry,
yes.
you're sitting so far.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. My question to the CS for Minister of Education is regarding the issue of junior secondary school. And this is specifically on ASAL areas. ASAL areas, JSS is suffering from many problems. You find that in those areas, one teacher is posted to one junior secondary school, and this teacher teaches 14 subjects, and the same teacher is the principal of that particular school. You wonder what time this teacher manages the school and what time he teaches this particular school. And now the question is, does the ministry have any plan to deploy more teachers to this junior secondary school? And secondly, the issue of laboratories. I'm told the CBC is centered on practical science practicals, and this junior secondary school do not have these laboratories. So does the ministry have any plan to construct laboratories in these junior secondary schools to avoid gaps? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Minister, you can answer those three.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. If I start with the last question, I want to assure members, because we are aware that indeed junior secondary schools require laboratories, because we are emphasizing on STEM sciences, and that's why we are engaging, as I said, the World Bank. And our engagement, we hope in another 4 months, they should be concluded. And out of the funds that we are accessing from World Bank, we should be able to do at least 40% of the total requirement of laboratories countrywide, and progressively we will be able to mitigate on this infrastructural requirement of laboratories. Other areas, we are aware, and if Honorable Speaker, the member can be able to confirm the numbers that were given to certain areas, particularly during the recruitment of teachers. In other areas, we get more, and I think we will be able to continue doing that until such a time that we make sure we are able to alleviate on this program of teacher shortage. I would like, probably quietly, the Member of Parliament to share, because I've gone to a number of these schools, I've gone to a number of these areas, including other areas. We have been to Turukana, we went to a number of junior secondary schools, Marsabit, Wajir, and all those areas. And I've not been to a school where I find one single teacher teaching 14 subjects. And kindly, probably you can come to the office we share, because there might be those isolated cases which we require to give consideration to. So that one, Honorable Member, kindly let us engage so that we can be able to get a remedial mess on that. Classrooms in secondary schools, Honorable Speaker, I want to make it very clear here that indeed, during this particular time, we had a very severe shortage of classrooms in our secondary schools. So even the number of classrooms that have been built in secondary schools are still not enough, because if you go to each and every one of these secondary schools, still they require more classrooms. So it's not that they are not being used. Actually, a number of them are being used up to capacity, and even as we move forward, we are looking into a situation where we require to build more classrooms. There is no single school where we build classrooms which are not being used as of now. New teachers, Honorable Speaker and Honorable Members, as we move forward, I have made an undertaking that we will be able to recruit more in the coming years as this August House allocates us the necessary funds to do so, because we are aware that indeed we don't have enough teachers in a number of our schools. A new administration block for junior secondary school, we have issued guidelines for now. That will be another expense where honorable members, you will be able to agree with me, the ministry, that we don't have such funds. That is why we said both primary school and the junior secondary school, we have the same kind of administration as of now. The only thing we have changed a little bit is that they have separate school accounts. The junior secondary school operates a separate account from the primary school. But the principal, as of now, we have one principal. As we move ahead, we might change where we have a separate administration for the junior secondary and also for the primary. Otherwise, as of now, it is one principal, one administration proc for now, and also, but separate accounts. We have also the board of management. We have one set which is the 17 out of the 17. We have one set which is in charge of the accounts of the junior secondary school and another one in charge of the primary schools. Sanitary parts, I think I've made an undertaking that we have had a discussion with the members of parliament, particularly the county members of parliament, where my member of parliament is also one of them. And once the committee of parliament, the committee of budget, and the committee of education makes a decision, that is exactly what we have to do. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Edwin Mugo. Sorry, yes, Dr. Nyikal? Yes, let's take one from Dr. Nyikal. And
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for making me a third joyrider. But, Mr. Speaker, I appreciate what our former colleague is doing and how complex the work is. But in reality, if you spend time, this time we were on recess and went around the constituencies, we are having a very hard start. The conditions are actually worse than what we are saying. In terms of teachers, infrastructure for classrooms, now laboratories. So my question to the CS is, can we have in every constituency what the plans are for the number of junior secondaries that are there this time, and those ones we can count, the ones that are coming next year, and two, can we have the number of classrooms that are actually expected in the junior secondary? And three, are we going to have laboratories or workshops in junior secondary? That one, there is no clarity whether we are going to have laboratories or workshops. And whatever it is, can we also have that? So that when we plan with CDF, we actually fall in place with your sub-county directors of education, so that there is some harmony on how we use our CDF to support the junior secondary program. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Waziri.
Thank you very much, Honorable Nyikar. We have made it clear that we require laboratories in the junior secondary schools. And that's why we are having the engagement with World Bank and also requesting the honorable members of parliament in your respective constituencies to prioritize constructing laboratories, because what we will do this coming financial year is 40% of what is required. So in this coming financial year, from the ministry side, we will be able to do the 40%, and probably the other financial year progressively as we proceed, we will also be able to do some kind of percentage. And I hope once you also access the CDF funds, you will be able to do some laboratories within your areas. Second is that the classrooms in junior secondary schools. You know, Honorable Speaker, we domiciled the existing primary schools to be junior secondary schools. And in those particular schools, we had class 7, we had class 8. So it is only that there are a few primary schools which did not qualify to be junior secondary schools, and hence the pupils in that particular school go to a nearby school. So the experience, the classroom shortage we have is not as big as such because we had existing classrooms, because out of the 28,000 primary schools, it's only about 5,000 that did not qualify to be junior secondary schools. But again, we have a report from each and every sub-county, from our sub-county directors, and moving forward, I think we should be able to give you this report we share, and we see what we can be able to do from the point of view of the ministry and from the CDF, what you can be able to do in your areas, because we also have a report on each and every sub-county indicating the shortage we have in terms of classrooms, like the example of Bonchari, which I gave. In the entire sub-county, the shortage we have is 22 classrooms. So in each and every of your sub-counties, we can also be able to provide that information so that you know the shortage you have. As we move forward, you can also be able to provide from your respective CDF funds. As areas, Honorable Speaker, I think I made a commitment that we are doing something about as areas, particularly also giving more funds. To Rukana, the other day we gave 100 million, where we are expanding the existing low-cost boarding schools. We are having one in Laikipia, which the Honorable Member Laikipia North, through sponsors and other CDF funds. We are also opening a boarding school, which we will support as government, and I think we will be able to assist as much as possible those areas that are as areas. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Edwin Mugo, member for Mathioya.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask question number 127, stroke 2023. Could the Cabinet Secretary warn the delay in the distribution of books 27-2023 for the school learners in public schools, noting that the books out February 17, 2023. 2, provide a report detailing the capitation grant received towards purchase of the textbooks and the actual amount spent on the purchase of textbooks in public secondary schools across the country. 3, indicate the strategies the ministry has put in place, if any, to address the challenges faced by the National Education Management Information System, NEMIS, expounding on the issue of variance in the number of learners in the system versus the actual learners in certain schools, hence reducing capitation in some schools and occasioning overcapitation in others. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. At present, the book distribution for junior secondary schools across the country stands at 90%. The distribution is of 992,884 books to 18,605 schools in the country. In Mathioya constituency, for example, the distribution is at 95% across all running areas. The balance of 5% will be of this month. There has been delays in meeting the initial deadline of 17th February 2023 for various reasons, and specifically, Mr. Speaker, we had 10 publishers who were contracted to supply the books, and there was a delay in providing the books. The 10 publishers are as given in my answer. I don't have to mention each and every one of them, but their delay on their part was attributed to the fact that we have only 10 capable and competent publishers who are capable of printing, and they were not able, because of the quantity and the number of materials that they were supposed to print, to supply the said materials within the timeline that we expected them to do so. And the entire copies of textbooks, I think, were over 17 million, and also during the time that we had given them the contract, some of them were not able to get the required wood quality papers. They had to import from other countries, and hence there was a delay because of that. And thirdly, also in supply of these textbooks, some parts of the country, like North Rift, when we supply, we have to get security personnel, and because of the kind of insecurity that was going on, there are areas that were not accessible, and we are trying to access those particular areas as of now. And Mr. Speaker, we have also said the distribution of books is actually detected from the capitation from each and every runner, which is provided for 3-day secondary schools and these other secondary schools. And this particular year, we have also said the amount that we will be able to detect from each and every runner to make sure that we are able to provide the required books to all our schools. And the second set of the question was on, we have also given a breakdown on how the books have been supplied, and I think that is in the appendix, which we have been able to supply, indicating where we are and how much we have been able to supply, and those that we are yet to supply, because the publishers and the printers have made a commitment that the percentage we are remaining with, it is only this very short time that we will be able to provide where we have not been able to provide. And the second set of the question is on NEMIS, and as members are aware, the registration of both runners with and without party certificates is captured in NEMIS, but those who access the funds are only those with the party certificates. And as per 60 June 2023, there were 3,883,139 runners in secondary schools who were on the NEMIS platform. Those fully registered, Honorable Speaker, are 3,670,839, which is 95% of the runners on the system. The remaining 212,300 runners, which is 5%, are not fully registered, such that, yes, they are in school, but they cannot be able to access capitation because the necessary details or party certificates have not been provided so far. So we have that figure, and progressively it improves because we insist with internal security, our chiefs and assistant chiefs, to follow up the parents so that we get the documents, so that this number each and every time comes down, is minimized, so that each and every person in a school is able to access capitation funds. Otherwise, 5% of this is the only number which I hope as we move on, we should be able to have this number reduced. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, thank you, Minister. Supplementary by the questioner. Honorable Edwin, you have the first bite to your question. Give Honorable Mugo, or you have no supplementary? Next to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I would want first to thank the CS for a very comprehensive answer. My only concern is on the fixed amount that is normally given to each school, because as you are aware, you know, I mean, there is this policy by the Minister of one child, 1 shilling, but you know, if you don't give this fixed amount, the schools that have fewer learners, like day secondary schools, will be affected, especially on the infrastructure issues. So maybe I would want to urge the CS to see what they can do to increase that fixed amount that should be given to each school, especially for administrative activities and for some other basic issues like sports. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Ruku.
And I want to thank the CS for all the questions he has answered. There are quite a number of schools in my constituency in Bear North whereby the congestion in the you find that one cubicle is accommodating more than 6 students. And we wonder, Mr. Speaker, whether we have education officers who are responsible enough to ensure that all the schools are managed in a proper manner, so that the board of management or the board of management, they don't allow the schools to be completely rehabilitated to the extent that boys and girls in those schools are getting extremely congested, and they are not reporting these matters to the appropriate offices to ensure proper actions are taken. I want to know whether the guidelines within the Ministry of Education allows a situation whereby we can get one room shared by more than 6 students, or a situation where we have one bed with 3, or you can call it 3 double-deckers. I don't know whether it's 3 double-deckers.
3 can't be double. Call them 3 deckers.
3 deckers.
Yes.
3 deckers, where one bed is at the bottom, middle, and another boy or girl sleeping at the top. That is a situation I have seen in quite a number of schools, and in a situation, Mr. Speaker, which is not going to experience. Thank you.
Phyllis Barton.
Think the question to the Cabinet Secretary is Eldoret is considered as a workstation under municipality, and the teachers who work in that environment are supposed to benefit from enhanced house allowance. Unfortunately, there is one school in the municipality named Chebarus Primary where the teachers are not benefiting from the same enhanced house allowance. So I wanted the minister to clarify, the Cabinet Secretary to clarify why they are disadvantaged. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Minister, let's take one more. Women Rep Tarakaniti.
I rise to speak for the special schools. Mr. Speaker, sir, special schools depend on the government entirely for funding the learners' schools. The government gives funding, that is grants and top-ups, to these schools. The last time top-ups was disbursed is December 2021, while grants was disbursed last year in October 2022. Mr. Speaker, sir, the management has struggled to run the schools with a lot of challenges. The non-teaching staff have not been paid for several months, Mr. Speaker, sir. So I wish to ask the CES, what measures has your ministry put in place to end the starvation in the special schools and have the learners get the much needed services, especially in Kaironi Primary School Special Unit, Karadan Primary School Special Unit, and Kon Primary School Special Unit, among other special units in the Rakanidi County and the entire country, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, sir. As members might be aware, of all our secondary schools in the country, 30% are boarding schools. We have a category of national schools, these county schools, and Kenyans, each and every one of them wants to take his or her child to either national or extra county school. And therefore, those particular schools are actually overstretched. 70% of our schools, Honorable Speaker, sir, which are day schools, you will find they are not as overstretched. And that's why going forward, we say we want to equip more our day schools, and also for parents to see the need of taking their children to day schools, because as it is of now, our national schools, we cannot be able to accommodate more than what we are accommodating, because the classrooms, the dormitories, the dining rooms, almost in each and every school, the situation is such that they cannot be able to accommodate anymore. And even the intake, we have given each and every school going forward, because sometimes they also go beyond. We have said unless we have facilities, we don't want our schools to go beyond. Funds, Honorable Member, we are able to do as much as you give us funds, because you know the tuition funds you give us, the money that we get from the August House for extracurricular activities. In actual fact, again, we started the extra activities right from schools, and then they go to sub-counties, to county, to region, all the way to national level. So each and every time we find we have a serious shortfall, and that's why we go for other partners. Like this particular year, in order for us to manage the extracurricular activities, we had to get the support of the Ministry of Youth, Sports, because of the fund they have, which you are aware of, the sports and the social performance fund, and they were able to give us 276 million. It is what made it possible for us to conduct the extracurricular activities that we were able to conduct. Eldoret, Honorable Member, I think I've heard you. In case these teachers are not enjoying the amount that they are supposed to enjoy in the form of the funds which others are enjoying, kindly bring it to my attention. I've taken note it is Jeparus Primary School, because if it is out like other teachers within the municipality. Special schools, we give them an enhanced capitation of 37,000, when the normal ones we give 22 million. And what we normally do, even when we find we get money in faces, we normally start with the special needs school. So I'm sure that in the course of this week, because we are accessing capitation funds, we will be able to consider those special needs school in giving them the amount of capitation that is designated for those schools. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, sir.
The question by Honorable Gabriel Kagombe. I have a request from him that Kawanjiku from Kiamba will ask the question on his behalf. Kawanjiku, go ahead. Give Kawanjiku the microphone.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to ask the question 245 of 2023. Could the Cabinet Secretary outline specific measures being pursued by the government to ensure that children with autism and autism spectrum disorder obtain equal access to education? Question 2, state the modalities used by the Ministry and the Kenya National Examination Council in availing alternative examination modes or avenues for autistic children who are not able to undertake written examinations. Number 3, confirm if the ministry intends to incorporate all assessment of autistic children in the competence-based curriculum, that is CBC, as well as the engagement of teachers who are specifically trained to handle children with autism. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker, sir. The set questions I have from the clerk of the National Assembly, which is here, Honorable
It doesn't
Speaker.
have that question.
It does in the future, and the question has not been brought to my attention because the questions are already here.
Kawanjiku, you'll tell Kagombe will step down his question to the